Hi class, I'm Justine Turner and I have an important question to ask you. Do you really know what's in your food? Because according to the USDA, in 2016, roughly 80% of cotton, soybeans, and corn are genetically modified, and none of them are labeled. Now, according to the chart, genetic modifications in our crops have been on a steady rise since 1996 and are only leveling off now because they are reaching 100%. This chart's concerning because as the main cook in the family, I like to provide the best and healthiest food for my family. And consumers have the right to know what they're eating and what they're providing other people with. I mean, this is the reason for nutrition labels at all. And adding a simple symbol for genetic modifications wouldn't really be that big a deal. However, large corporations need an incentive to put this label on, and so that's why we need to speak out. But the main problem is that most people don't know that they're eating genetically modified food or even what a genetically modified food is. So basically, scientists and farmers have been coming together for decades now to create the best and most efficient crops, or at least in the short term, most efficient. And they do this by taking the DNA in one organism and transferring it into the crop that they would like to grow. And this creates a genetically modified organism, or a GMO. Now, according to the USDA, GMOs have the potential to lead to superpests and superweeds because the main trait that is transferred is pest resistant and herbicide resistant. And this can be a big problem for the local waterways as well, and it can be very damaging. So people know if the product contains meat, and a majority of restaurants provide special selections to accommodate that person's personal choice. It should be the same with GMOs. Individuals should be able to make their own informed choice about what they're consuming or what they're providing their kids to consume. Now that we have talked about the problem, let's talk about the solution. Through education and persistence, identifying foods that contain genetic modifications can become very simple. So to create awareness will lead to the labeling of genetically modified foods to become more of an ethical issue, and the education to the risk to the environment will help in that. And all of this awareness will lead large corporations to actually take steps in identifying when an ingredient has been genetically modified. So an example of this is an example of corporations taking action because the consumers demand it is with Cheerios labeling themselves as gluten-free after people who demanded gluten-free products. So now visualize yourself walking down a grocery store aisle and you see labels on containers for genetically modified food. You know exactly what you're eating and how those ingredients got there. And parents making informed choices about what they're feeding their kids. However, without these solutions, we could be adding to our environmental problems. And the popularity of Earth Day shows that most people don't want that to happen. So to achieve this future, a few things need to change. People have the right to know what they're consuming, and most don't. So education is a big step in that. And simply adding a label would go a long way in helping. By going to Food Democracy Now! Michigan website, you can send an email to our governor to create legislation to require GMO labeling. This can happen on a state level and has in a few of them. That a certain state has taken action doesn't need to be federal. So knowing the ingredients in your food is important. Knowing what's in these ingredients is even more important to leading a healthy lifestyle. Thank you so much for your time.